It is time to get out of pocket. I'm your host, Michael Davis. Now, this is the layout we're going to be using for the rest of the show. We have a huge show in store for you. We got Top Rope Tuesday with a first-time guest, Lou Marconi, former professional wrestler, now does content for Fanatical Elfz, Fans First Sports Network. He has his own wrestling podcast, so we'll welcome him in, talk some Top Rope Tuesday, talk some WWE. In addition, we got Wayne Thomas from Sideline Savants coming into the show today to talk about fantasy football, and all three of us are going to join forces to talk about the 3-0 teams and the 0-3 teams. Now, as I mentioned, this is going to be the layout we're going to be using for the rest of the show, but not for right now because we have the top quarter rankings. Yes, if you've been joining us every Tuesday, we've kicked off the show by introducing our top 8, picked by yours truly, top 8 NFL teams from this point in the season. Now, I want to show my picks last week. Actually, let me show my picks from week 1. Because week 1, we looked at this and we were like, okay, well, the 49ers lose week 2. The Cowboys lose week 2. The Lions lose week 2. The Eagles lose week 2. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is almost becoming a curse. And then week 2, last week, we see the Texans lose. We see the Saints lose. We see the 49ers lose. So this might be a cursed top quarter rankings. Wayne, he'll be on a little later on. He's predicting the Bills number 1. And so before I let Lou Marconi in from Fanatical Elfz, from Fans First Sports Network, let's go ahead and get into our top quarter rankings for week 3. Now, guys, this is... If you noticed, week 1, I put a certain team at number 8. And then they won. They had a big game against the Dallas Cowboys. And, they moved up the rankings and then they lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. But I still keep them in my top quarter rankings for week 3. T-Money in here. 10-man PPR. Burrow, Jacobs, Connor, CD, Chase, Kincaid, DK, J-Mo, Ford, Mooney, Watson, Worthy, Brooks on IR. Should I trade Connor and J-Mo for JT? Could you even get Jonathan Taylor? I personally say I would go get Jonathan Taylor if that's the JT you're talking about. But we will have Wayne Thomas in a little later on, and I could throw this question at him as well when he's on air. So T-Money, stay tuned. I got the Saints at number 8 in my top quarter rankings. Yes, they just lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, but this was their first week being held under 40 points? This Saints team, yeah, they ran to a brick wall when they faced the Philadelphia Eagles. Unfortunately, they lost, but they made Jalen Hurts look pretty bad at times. They saw what a good rushing attack looked like in Saquon Barkley. Dallas Goedert, by the way, the Saints, this is their one weakness, is the tight end position. Jake Ferguson was out that Cowboys matchup. Luke Schoonmaker stepped up and made some plays. The Saints struggled week 1 against tight ends, and it feels like if Dallas Goedert doesn't have this big of a game, then the Saints probably walk away with a win. I still think Derek Carr is playing some of his best ball. I still feel like Alvin Kamara's turned back the clock. You have Chris Olave. Rashid Shaheed, you need to get him more involved. Yes, he had 5 targets, 0 catches. And the 1 week I did start him in fantasy, it came back to bite me in the butt. So not entirely happy with the Saints, but I still think they're in the top 8 teams coming in at number 8. Number 7, I got the Detroit Lions. Now, Detroit, they were able to bounce back this past week. They won a road game against the Arizona Cardinals. And you have to acknowledge the Detroit Lions. And in terms of yards per game, they are 4th on that list behind San Fran, Philadelphia, and Baltimore. Defensively, they're like hovering around closer to the top 10 when it comes to yards per game. Less than 300 yards per game given up on defense. And I just look at that team and I believe in Dan Campbell. Just like Wayne Thomas said a few weeks ago, I believe in Dan Campbell. Now, this was a quality road win. They didn't get much going offensively in terms of the scoreboard late in the second half, so that kind of concerns me. But Arizona has a lot of fight at this stage of the season. They always have. Marvin Harrison Jr. did have a really good game, but Detroit was able to run the ball. David Montgomery, 23 carries, 105 yards, a touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs, 16 carries, 83 yards, and they were able to stop the run. James Conner, 9 carries, 17 yards. So T-Money, you talking about trading away Conner and J-Mo for Jonathan Taylor? I mean, if that's what I'm seeing from production-wise from James Conner, I would try to unload him. If you can get Jonathan Taylor, I would try to unload him. Coming in at number 6, we got the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle, I'll be honest, hasn't necessarily impressed me through the first few weeks, but I still have them in my top core rankings, even though I don't look at the record so much because I actually have a 3-0 team outside of my top core rankings because I don't fully reflect on the actual record. Because I feel like, yes, you can't really dictate who you play in the NFL. This isn't college where you pick your own schedule. But Seattle hadn't really played anybody. You had the Denver Broncos at home week 1. Yeah, like I'm going to take Bo Nix and his rookie game in Seattle. You went to New England. You went cross country and beat the Patriots, but you still gave up 20 points to that team. But then you have the Miami Dolphins, who, yes, they were missing Tua. I will give you out. They were missing Tua Tagovailoa due to a concussion that he suffered the week prior. Skylar Thompson, yes, he left this game injured, but I'll be honest, the way they were able to keep a chain in check, particularly in the running game, the way they were able to keep Jalen Wright, the rookie from Tennessee, who tried to step in for Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson in check. And then you look at offense. I don't think you can really hold Tyreek Hill to 3 catches, 40 yards. Jalen Waddle, 4 catches, 26 yards. Jonnu Smith, 2 catches, 18 yards. I don't think you're able to do that if you don't have a stout defense, no matter who is at quarterback. And then offensively, like there's concern about Tyler Lockett. There's concern about Lockett in terms of his age. There's concern about Jackson Smith and Jigba in terms of can he step up and be the number 2 receiver. But you still have DK Metcalf. And people forget about Seattle. People forget they are without Kenneth Walker. They are without their best running back, and they're still producing on the ground. Now, Aaron asked, is that 3-0 team I left out Pittsburgh? Well, we have 5 slots left to fill, Aaron. That's a great question. There's 5 more slots left to fill. Seattle gets one of them. And, Aaron, you might actually like this team that I have coming in at number 5. And no, it's not your Carolina Panthers who shocked the world with Andy Dalton coming in, stepping up at that moment. I got the Houston Texans. Now, you notice the Saints lost this week. They still remain in the top quarter rankings. Houston loses this week. They still remain in the top quarter rankings. Now, I had the Texans and the Saints 2 and 3 last week, respectively, because I was really impressed with what they've done the first couple weeks. Of course, they come back and they don't make it to 3-0. They're not one of those 3-0 teams we'll talk about a little later on with Lou Marconi and Wayne Thomas. But what the Texans did over the first 2 weeks is really impressive. You can't disregard that. I know they lost 34-7 to the Minnesota Vikings on the road. And you're like, how did CJ Stroud go from giving Caleb Williams advice to getting smoked by Sam Darnold? Well, we need to put a little more respect on Sam Darnold. I'll talk about that here in just a few moments, a little later on in the show. But yeah, you lose 34-7. CJ Stroud doesn't have his greatest game. 20 of 31, 215 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. The 2 interceptions did not help. But you still have production from Stephon Diggs. You still have production from Nico Collins and Tank Dell. You're without Joe Mixon in this game. So immediately the Vikings jump up 14-0, And Houston's like, I can't run the ball because A, Joe Mixon's not there, and B, we're in the hole early. And it was 21-17 after the third quarter before Minnesota went on a little run in the fourth quarter, pretty much pulling away late in the fourth and figuring things out because they kicked a field goal right as the fourth quarter was beginning to go up 17 points. You have that Sam Darnold pass to Johnny Munt, whoever that is, and then you had another 58-yard field goal as you went on. So the score doesn't necessarily reflect a blowout, even though it was 21-0 at one point. Houston, you're not perfect. You're not undefeated. I don't blame you for that. Now, the other team I have coming up above them as a 2-1 team, I got the Philadelphia Eagles. And by the way, if I'm not mistaken, we have 3-0 teams the rest of the way on these top quarter rankings. There's 4 more remaining, and 3 will get into the top quarter rankings. But there's one-loss teams like the Saints and the Lions and the Texans and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, it pains me to say, but the reality is the Philadelphia Eagles were able to beat Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers week 1. They were able to beat the Saints this past week. And to be fair, they only lost to the Atlanta Falcons by 1 point. Now, everybody in the group chat, I'm in several different group chats, and everybody's like, Jalen Hurts is trash. Like, bench him, da. Guys, you need to calm down. You need to calm down, by the way. Not cool. Jalen Hurts, yes, he actually has the second most interceptions in the NFL since dating back to last year, and the most turnovers when you equate to fumbles. But the Philadelphia Eagles were able to, A, stop a high-powered Saints offense, and B, they were able to control the clock. They were able to run the ball efficiently. Saquon Barkley, a huge addition from the division rival, the New York Giants, 17 carries, 147 yards, 2 touchdowns. Dallas Goedert had a really, really good game. Devontae Smith, and they did this without A.J. Brown, which is actually the most impressive about this. A.J. Brown being a top 5, top 7 receiver in the NFL, in my personal opinion, even if he is a Philadelphia Eagle. And I was impressed for the Philadelphia Eagles against the Saints to keep that a low-scoring game, to keep that in reach, and were able to win late. Number 3, the Buffalo Bills. And here in just a couple moments, I'm going to be welcoming in Lou Marconi from Fanatical Elfz Network and Fans First Sports Network. We're going to talk some Top Rope Tuesday. We're going to talk some more NFL. And we're going to talk about some of these 3-0 teams I'm about to mention. The Buffalo Bills come in at number 3. And I keep predicting over and over and over again, like Buffalo, this is their year of demise. They get rid of Stephon Diggs. He's in Houston. I talked about them a few minutes ago. But, of course, the Buffalo Bills just absolutely dominate the Jacksonville Jaguars at home. And they absolutely dominated the Miami Dolphins on the road. And they beat the Arizona Cardinals, who have given teams a fight here the first few weeks of the season. And yeah, you're like, they beat the Jaguars. No, they decimated. They absolutely murdered the Jacksonville Jaguars, making people question Trevor Lawrence's ability. Josh Allen, super, super efficient this entire game, 23 of 30, 263 yards, 4 touchdowns, 6 carries, 44 yards on the ground as well. James Cook making plays, but they're without Stephon Diggs, and you look at that receiving core, and you're like, they have Curtis Samuel, they have Keon Coleman, who hasn't done much at all these first few weeks. They have Khalil Shakir, and they're finding ways to blow out teams and be dominant. So Buffalo's number 3 on my rankings. Number 2, I have the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings have blown me away. I was predicting, especially when J.J. McCarthy got injured, that the Minnesota Vikings were going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. And there's going to be some teams this year, and we'll talk about it in a second, who probably won't even win 3 games the entire season. And Minnesota starts 3-0. And the first few weeks, they beat the Giants. Big whoop. But then they beat the 49ers, and you're like, whoa. But the 49ers are hurt and, they're not fully healthy. Christian McCaffrey didn't play. And then they go and beat up on the Houston Texans 34-7. Like, that's a grown team. But Sam Darnold proving that you just have to land in the right place at the right time. And 17 of 28, 4 touchdowns. He didn't have to do much. Aaron Jones turning back the clock, 19 carries, 102 yards. Justin Jefferson performing really well. Jalen Naylor stepping up for the absent Jordan Addison. They haven't even needed Jordan Addison at all. They're not missing J.J. McCarthy. Minnesota's at number 2. And right before we bring in Lou, I got to put the Chiefs number 1. No surprise here. Aaron, yes, you predicted I have the Steelers outside of my top quarter rankings. I'm sure we'll talk about that with Lou once we get to the NFL. Wayne Thomas will also be in from Sideline Savants. But the Kansas City Chiefs, this was super easy. They're not really blowing teams out, but they're winning. And a team who is back-to-back Super Bowl champions going on the road, prime time, against Kirk Cousins, against the Atlanta Falcons, who have fight in them, limiting Bijan Robinson to 16 carries and 31 yards. Oh, my goodness. And they're doing this without Isaiah Pacheco. They're doing this without Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, they're doing this with Carson Steele. Who is Carson Steele? That's having 17 carries and 72 yards. He's a rookie from UCLA. And they're like, okay, we're just going to do this. Travis Kelce hasn't even been a huge factor. Like, he's the X factor for this Chiefs for many of their years, their Super Bowl run, their dynasty. But they're relying on Rashee Rice. They're relying on Patrick Mahomes. They're relying on a defense that can hold a star running back to less than 2 yards per carry. That is my top quarter rankings. There. I'll have it on social media as well. You guys can comment on that. But right now we have a treat. We have a first-time guest into Outta Pocket. The first time you're seeing him on Boom Broadcasting. If you watched the show last Friday, I had Johnny Cleveland from Fanatical Elfz Network joining me, doing some picks. I lost. He lost. Wayne, who's joining us in a few moments, he lost. Jason will be defending his crown this Friday. But I got to talk about the big title change. If you haven't watched Raw, now's your chance to click away, come back and watch us. But I am being joined by Lou Marconi. Lou,
Hey.
It is awesome to have you, my friend.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's awesome to have you in here. If you guys recognize him, he is a former professional wrestler.
Long time retired. Yep.
Long time retired. He promised he wouldn't put me in a headlock, and to
No.
make sure we didn't have that situation, even though I'm supporting indie wrestling.
You are?
CC Young win the SEC Ladies Championship this past weekend.
Good for him.
We're doing this virtually, so Lou doesn't have to, be tempted to put me in a headlock.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate
dude, it's awesome. I'm gonna avoid talking about your Browns today because
you can talk about them. I don't care. It is what it is. So, I was at the game. I was at the Cowboys game. I'm a season ticket holder, and I was there. So it was the game started out very fast, and people thought, oh, this is gonna be great because they got Amari Cooper involved right away. And it's just all right. We're rocking and rolling. Then we gave up 8 sacks. When you give up 8 quarterback sacks, that'll kill any offense. and yet, despite all that, the 2 turnovers, 8 sacks, because the Giants turned it over twice too, and we capitalized on one of them. We still had an opportunity at the end of the game to drive down and score, and we just couldn't do it. They couldn't capitalize on it. They couldn't do it. So they got a lot of things to fix on offense. Defense is playing very well, actually. The offense just isn't clicking or not moving the ball at all. So, but anyway.
It's it's not fun, I'm assuming, to be a Cleveland Browns fan right now because of all the, honestly, the lack of trust in Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, really, to me, I take things differently and I do things differently. And I have the opportunity to cover the team that I grew up being a fan of. And I'm talking about way before the Art Modell thing happened. I'm talking because I'm 51 years old. And I look at it this way. I am being paid to do something I enjoy doing, and that's covering my favorite football team. So that right there is to me, everything's great. Now, would I want the team to be doing better? Of course. But I'm not going to let 3 games at a 1-2 record bring me down at this point. We'll talk at week 10. How about that?
Okay. We'll get you back on week 10.
He's not. Yeah, we could go over, like, because people are like, oh, $230 million. I said, well, how much is Joe Burrow making right now? And what is his record? How much is Trevor Lawrence making? What's his record? So you don't want to freak out after 3 weeks. But I will say this, that they need to play better. He needs to play better. And if he was sitting here with me, he'd say the same thing. So
yeah. Well, maybe he's not sitting beside you because you'd put him in a headlock.
No, I wouldn't do anything like that to Deshaun. No, there's lots of things. Plus, people were talking about the salary cap implications, and actually, there's some great people that I've talked to about that, and the way the Browns manage the cap is ways that other teams can't do it, because the owner is like Daddy Warbucks. He restructures these contracts, he pays out these bonuses. So really, we have $60 million in cap space this year. And people don't realize that. Yeah. Now, the thing is, if some reason something happens with Deshaun getting suspended again, because there was an allegation that came out about 2 weeks ago, but it's kind of, this woman's claiming this thing, but from what was described, and it's a civil lawsuit, what was described in the lawsuit was a crime. I'm like, well, why didn't she go to the police? So I don't know what the details are, what the story is. But I said, I talked to the guy I talked to that's like a salary cap expert. I said, what would happen if he gets his contract voided? They said the prorated already amount paid would still count towards the cap, but the rest of it wouldn't. So what the exact number would be, it all depends on when they would release him and void the contract. More than likely, if the Browns have to do that and they're forced to do it, it would be after the 1st of June of 2025. So that's what would have to happen, and they move on from them if they had to. But it hasn't gotten to that point yet. So there's a lot to be fixed with this team, and a lot of it starts with the offensive line. So it's a lot. I mean, it was really bad. I was there, I watched it, and there was still an opportunity at the end of the game. That was the crazy part. So yeah, so it just goes to show the Giants aren't that good. So
yeah,
neither are we.
That's fair. I definitely did not put the Giants in my top core rankings, and you know, I also think once the Browns' offensive line gets healthier, like that first week, they were without both their starting tackles. Like,
right,
you can't win games like that
against. No, you can't, and it's hard to do that. And plus, they really didn't have training camp together. There, a lot of guys didn't play in the preseason, and it's just kind of like, ooh, it's cringy, very cringy. So the health issues they had last year kind of carried over already. So we'll have to see how the rest of the season goes. But people are already, I mean, there's idiots talking about firing the coach after you just extend him after a 2-time coach of the year. All of a sudden, like, what if he can't coach football all of a sudden? It's ridiculous. So it just surprised me. It just completely surprised me how quick people are ready to bury somebody without even knowing it. But yeah, I guess there was a major title change last night with Mr. Uso. Jey Uso.
There was a big title change. We gave you ample amount of time to turn off if you've not seen it. Lou, I'll be honest, this took me by surprise because I thought you were going to keep the title on Braun Breaker for quite some time. He seems to be a hot prospect right now, and I did not expect this to happen.
That's probably why they did it. It could be one of the reasons why tune into something if you know it's going to happen. If you already know it's going to happen, why tune in? So I would think they could have been for a ratings pop. I have no idea, but I didn't. But to be honest with you, I didn't see Raw last night. I was watching that crazy Bengals Commanders game. What did you just to get back to football real quick? There was history was made last night. Did you know that?
History was made.
History was made. Neither team had a turnover or punt since 1940.
In that Bengals game?
Bengals Commanders. Yep, I saw that online today. I was like, huh. I watched it. It was a good game. It was fun to watch. And I'll tell you what, Jaden Daniels impressed me. I was like, geez, we got to play them in 2 weeks. Yeah. We could. Neither team punted or had a turnover. And that's the first time that's happened in an NFL game since 1940.
I mean, it was a high-scoring game, 38-33. Wow.
That's what it's. Yeah. And I was like, I did not know that until I saw it. I was like, interesting. I think it was Adam Schefter that tweeted that. So He's pretty accurate when it comes to things like that. So I just was like, interesting. I just thought it was a little interesting tidbit. But if you want to get back to wrestling, feel free to. And I'll plug my shows while
Oh,
I'm up
oh, oh,
yeah, the Fanatical
100%.
Elfz. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do Stirring the Pot with Johnny Cleveland. We did that last night while the game was on. And I was kind of telling him I write for Fans First. I'm a beat reporter for the Browns, Cavaliers, and Buckeyes, Ohio State football. And I also I do the StewKast with the Combat Zone Network with Fans First. Corey Castle and I, we talk wrestling on that one. That's live 12:30. You can see it on X. You can see it on YouTube. So we do that, and then I also have the Burning River Browns talk on Friday night. So I keep myself busy. I just do a lot of writing and a lot of podcasting, and yeah. So I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, I have Rumble shows, which is the Sunday Stew Pot with Corey Castle, who's a wrestler out of Philadelphia that I've
Yeah.
been friends with. So just having at it at this point.
Yeah, dude, and I've been watching some of your stuff too. Like, I'm not even a Browns fan, but, I
Thank you.
like
It's fine.
Fanatical Elves, like, that you guys do really good stuff. John, I had him on the show a couple times. I
He's a
got to
good guy.
collab with him for the
Hmm.
Cowboys-Browns game, and
Hmm.
I'm like, "Huh, you guys are, like, putting out a lot of content." And then you're
Yeah,
also doing a wrestling podcast on top of that.
yeah, I'm doing that too, and that's gonna tomorrow 12:30. So, what we want to talk about tomorrow, I guess the Netflix documentary is dropping tomorrow morning. The Mr. McMahon.
Ooh.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. When I was there during the Attitude Era.
Mhm.
That's how old I am. Yeah, I was. So
Dude.
yeah, so I maybe the 4 years when I worked for them, Vince McMahon might have spoke to me once, and that was it. I never really dealt with them. I always dealt with the road agents. No,
What was that one time?
he had a headset on. He was by the gorilla position. It was after I had a match. It was with Johnny B. Bad. It was Mark Marrow.
Yeah.
And I had a match with him, and he turns around, takes off the headset, looks at me, goes, "Thank you very much." I said, "You're welcome," and that was it. That was it. The only time he ever talked to me. He
Wow.
thanked me for the match. I was like, "All right." So, and I remember working with Mark too. I told him because that was right after the SummerSlam in Cleveland.
Mhm.
It was '96, and he did that Shooting Stars press on Goldust, and I said, "Hey, let's do it for TV." He goes, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "This is TV. Yes, yeah, we'll do it. Yes, I'll take it. I'll take it." So I knew, and he was just really happy with me because a lot of times I went out of my way to make guys look good. I wanted to do that because that was what my job was to you know enhance. So that's what I was there for.
That's why I hate about, wrestling fans online using the term jobber, because there's no
Uh,
really, like, there's no such thing as a jobber.
we all are. Yeah. Well, no, I didn't care about that. I mean, I've heard journeyman, I've heard jobber, but that was one of my younger days. As I got older and I was more established in the business, I had 3 times I held the NWA national title. So I mean, I've got the belt behind me. I've got the NWA not mid Atlantic, Eastern States belt, and that one actually, it's on my shelf. It's signed by Harley Race. He presented it to me when I won the tournament, and he signed it and gave it to me. So I mean, Lord rest his soul. Is really Harley Race was a very nice man. I didn't know
Yeah.
what to expect when I met him, but yeah, he was really cool. But anyway, I just go over about that. The jobber thing, those are internet trolls that, never laced up a pair of boots in their lives. So
Yeah, that's, dude, so many good stories. Now, you mentioned Mark Marrow a few minutes ago.
mhm,
I'd be remiss without mentioning, like, I've gotten to meet him. I
good
know
guy.
he's really, turned everything around, really goes to all these schools and helps people out. He actually gave me one of these bracelets, the Never Give Up and Dream Big.
Oh, cool. Was
Um,
that in Texas?
it was I saw him in North Carolina. It was WrestleCade, actually. Um,
When
th
what year? What year? I
this
wrestled at WrestleCade.
this was, gosh, I wanna say either 22. I wanna say 2022 is when he gave it to me, and I know you did wrestle at WrestleCade. That is,
Yeah,
awesome.
I did a couple times. Yeah. I left North Carolina. I went back home to Ohio. I want to say it was 2016, like just before the last WrestleCade 2016. So I've been home about 8 years. So yeah, interesting.
Would you ever come back?
To North Carolina?
Yeah?
Not till my girls graduate from high school, at least, and that's 11 years away. So we put our roots down here. They're gonna finish school here. So yeah, I have 2 daughters. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome, man.
So
Well,
what's
Lou, I got Wayne backstage if we want to talk some football with him real quick.
with Wade? Sure. Did you want me to turn my light on in here, or do you want is this lit well enough for you?
This is lit well perfectly. My lighting also does some weird things as I move my hands.
Yeah, yeah. That's fine. Yeah, we can put Wade on. We can talk football. Sure.
All right, so I am welcoming in Wayne Thomas from Sideline Savants. Lou, be nice. He's a Ravens guy.
Oh, he's a Ravens guy. He's a Ravens guy.
What's up,
We
Wayne?
both-
Hey,
Hey.
how y'all doing?
Good.
Right on.
Now, I want to ask you guys, because there's a handful of 3-0 teams. There's a handful of 0-3 teams, and I wanted to
Mhm.
ask about these 3-0 teams. There's 5 undefeated people right now: the Bills, the Chiefs, the Seahawks, Vikings, and I purposefully left the Steelers off my top core rankings because I'm not really impressed. One of the things is like they won't commit to Justin Fields as their quarterback, so I don't trust that long term. Until you can actually tell me, hey, who's leading the locker room, I don't have a lot of faith in their team. But of those 5, and I'll start with Wayne on this one. Who do you think is most likely to crumble and miss the playoffs, if you had to guess?
Of the 3-0 teams, most likely to miss the playoffs. Man, you left the Steelers out, but I wanted to say the Steelers.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Did you see their
Yeah.
last 8 games of the schedule, Wayne?
Yeah,
I mean, they
absolutely.
play all 6 divisional games, and then they have the Chiefs and the Eagles. So it's like that's brutal. So I still believe the AFC North is the toughest division in football.
Yeah,
Still,
100%.
we
Mike,
just
I'm
need to
sorry.
we need to get healthy. That's what we have to do.
Mike, I'm sorry, but yeah, I got to go with the Steelers, even though you left them out.
Yeah.
And let's give credit where it's due with the Steelers. Mike Tomlin's coaching a good start so far. Justin Fields, I know they're not committing to him right now, but he's actually looking like a decent game manager out there. So I mean, a lot of respect to them so far, and I hate to give him respect as a Ravens fan, but it is what it is. Tomlin's one of the best coaches in the league. But let's see if it can hold up, and I just don't think they can make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, Tomlin, he hasn't had a losing season since he's been there. So he's obviously. It's always interesting when I've talked to Steeler fans too. They want to get rid of him because they're sick of going 9-8 or 10-7. And I said he gets fired within 24 hours, he'll have another job in the NFL.
Oh yeah, 100%.
He would. Another team would take him in a heartbeat. So, and I can go back to the Browns in 1988 when they got rid of Marty Schottenheimer, and within 24 hours, the Kansas City Chiefs hired him, and 2 years later we were 3-13. So I was like, guys, and those people wanted him back. So just don't watch out. Be careful what you wish for, Steeler fans. So they're going to be a good team. Whether they make the playoffs or not. I mean, it's only week 3. It's hard to say. I mean, week 4 is coming up, so it's hard to say. But if you go 3-0, you really set yourself up nicely, though, versus being 0-3. So I think it's really tough. I mean, Cincinnati put themselves in a hole because you thought. I mean, when they lost to New England at home, I'm like, what? I couldn't believe it. So
Yeah, and Jason saying Seahawks could fall with injuries, NFC wide open. Yeah, Seahawks, they also play in a really, really tough division. Probably the most trustworthy of these is the Kansas City Chiefs. And Wayne hosts a fantasy football show. Sideline Savants drops 12 p.m. tomorrow. I just got a comment from Jonathan Mateo saying he just traded Isaiah Pacheco for Tank Dell in his fantasy league, and says he highly doubts Pacheco is going to play the rest of the season with ligament damage and fracture. Wayne, can we fact check that real quick? Is that a thing?
They say he's probably going to be out for between 6 to 8 weeks with that injury, and if it's a non-dynasty league, I would say go ahead. That's probably a good trade. Dynasty league, however, I definitely want to keep Pacheco.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And this is why we do lives, by the way, so you guys can engage in the comments, talk to us. You guys get to help dictate what we talk about here on Outta Pocket.
What do you think of the Vikings? Because this surprises me. The Vikings being this good. I'm just kind of curious. Just what do you? I mean, what are you taking from this? Because like all of a sudden, Sam Darnold figured it out. Like,
So I saw an interesting stat. Sam Donald is the 5th quarterback in 25 years to go 3-0, do 8 touchdowns and at 3 starts. The last 2 or 4 quarterbacks to do that was Stafford and Warner. So Sam Darnold is having a historic start right now. And for someone who we've insulted for so long, to be doing as well as Sam Darnold, man, I'm pulling for him. And
yeah, good for him. Good for
yeah,
him. Yeah.
he's doing great things right now. And I think Minnesota Vikings are for real.
It appears that way. I swear, I'm just like, whoa. Was there any? Let me just kind of just to play like devil's advocate a little bit on this. Was there any game that surprised you this weekend when you saw the score of it? Because Carolina beating up on the Raiders, because that's where we're going to Las Vegas this weekend, and it's like
Oh,
Carolina beating up on the Raiders. I'm like, how did that happen? It completely shocked me. So, is there any other ones that you thought were like, what? Because I think Denver beat Tampa Bay, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
with Baker Mayfield. Yeah, it's like it was
Yeah.
what yeah, besides the Browns losing to the Giants at home too. That game. I mean, I was at the game. So
I think for me personally, like Panthers, it didn't shock me that they won because anytime you make a quarterback change, there's a little
mhm.
more juice on the field, it seems. Bo Nix didn't surprise me. I knew he needed a come out victory, but honestly, like the way the Vikings manhandled the Texans who were good, but
Yeah,
also like the Eagles holding the Saints to 12 minutes or 12 points. Like, what was that? Like, they were high-powered offense. They just torched the Dallas defense too. Absolutely wild.
yeah. It's a weird league sometimes. You can't really predict anything, I guess.
Any given Sunday. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah,
Jason,
trouble in Jerry's world. Oh, God.
Jason, that was that's not a surprise. I told you guys it would happen. Jason also predicted that would happen, so that's not a surprise at all.
You predicted Baltimore beating up on the Cowboys at home?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm,
Like our biggest weakness is run defense. And then when you play Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, like, come on.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
an easy dub.
Well, like, yeah, when the Raiders upset Baltimore at home, Derrick Henry barely touched the ball in the second half. And people, I mean, I just seen all the criticism of the play calling. I'm going, wow. Because I was watching the Jacksonville Browns game, and then after that game ended, I saw the end of the Raiders Ravens. So that was interesting. It's like they
How'd
got away
you
from it.
how'd you feel about that, Wayne?
Yeah.
Well, I'll go back to what he was saying before about Mike Tomlin and how the Steelers fans are saying how they want to get rid of him every now and then. That's kind of how I feel as a Ravens fan with John Harbaugh. I mean, he does make some questionable decisions. However, I feel when we let John Harbaugh go, we will miss John Harbaugh. He's a heck of a coach. And I think there's a lot of ways to look at the Ravens and see some of their downfall. John Harbaugh's coaching decisions have certainly impacted the team, especially when they abandon the run. They got to give Derrick Henry the rock. They got to keep that running game going. And when we have to play from behind, we're not a play from behind team.
No, that's not the style of offense Baltimore runs.
Yeah.
They're the ones that get ahead and kind of grind it out. That's what they kind of do. There was, what season was it when Baltimore got like ravaged with injuries, and they won in like 3 or 4 games? I'm trying to remember. It was Harbaugh was the coach, because he's been there for like 16 years or 17 years.
I believe it was like 2 years ago. We practically didn't have any wide receivers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it happens. I mean, injuries happen. Yeah. That's why when people were talking about Stefanski, our guy, and it's like, yeah, but at the same time, it's like he's getting ravaged with injuries now, and it's like they just extended him and the general manager, and it's like,
Nick Chubb's out. Like, your offensive line's been injured the entire time. You've missed some key pieces on defense too. Like, I wouldn't be worried about.
Myles Garrett is hobbled. I don't know how serious it is. He had an MRI. I haven't seen any reports on it. Something to do, like when he was a child, he had the surgery on the arches of his feet, and that got aggravated for both feet. So he's like, I don't know if it's plantar fasciitis or what it is, but he was hobbling. at the end of the game last week. I was there. I watched it. So it's hard to say what's going to happen.
Man, well, at least none of these teams that we've mentioned, at least Wayne's Ravens, my Cowboys, Lou's Browns, they're not 0-3. There are three of those teams. We got the Bengals, Jaguars, Titans. And I wanted to ask you guys, who do you think of these three teams could have the best chance at the playoffs? They're all in the AFC, but also who do you think is the worst of the worst and has the best chance to get the number one overall pick? Wayne, I'll start with you on that one.
I'll start with the worst. I mean, the Jaguars look absolutely terrible, and it's a shame to see because 2 years ago Trevor Lawrence looked like a legitimate star, and now it looks like he's considered possibly to be a bust, and it's tough. I mean, the Jaguars got nothing going for them right now. They can't even get ETN going. So the Jaguars is undoubtedly going to get the first pick, in my opinion. I hate to say it, but the Bengals have enough weapons to make a run for it later down in the year.
They do. They're a good. They're a good team.
Yeah, their defense is absolutely suspect, but as far as their offensive power, I mean, Joe Burrow could get hot. He's got some of the best receiving core in the NFL. There's no reason why the Bengals can't turn it around.
Lou, do you agree?
I do, but I would say I think let me just say I think Tennessee's worse than Jacksonville roster-wise because they don't have a real quarterback. Yeah. I think Jacksonville has a chance because they have Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence is better than Levis, so I just say I think Tennessee will probably have the best chance of getting the number one overall pick. The shame is our former offensive line coach that we love is Bill Callahan. His son's Brian Callahan. So we let Bill leave to go coach with his son in Tennessee, and we're like missing Bill. Everybody's screaming like our offensive line coach that did such a good job with us before now is gone. But you can't blame him. He went to go be with his son. So
honestly, Bill Callahan, one of the best things to ever happen to the Cowboys offensive line, because the way that we had all the talent there, Bill Callahan, once he came in, it clicked. And then it just stayed throughout the years while Tyron Smith was there. Zach Martin, Travis Frederick was another one. It was it was a good time. It was a good time in Dallas, solidifying that offensive line. But hopefully they'll make some strides too to help with that. But
yeah.
But Lou, I told you I'd let you bounce, but remind people. Oh, you want to stay on?
We could stay on. I could stay on for a couple more minutes. I'm fine with it. We can talk football.
Okay.
You said 6. Well, I mean, how long are you going to be on for? I mean,
we're going live till about 6:30. I'll ask Wayne some fantasy football questions. I don't know if you play fantasy football.
No, actually, I don't. So that might be a good idea. I really don't. I write about it, and I write about football, and I enjoy it. Okay, let's go. I can't bounce. Wayne, it was really nice to meet you, and I really appreciate it.
Hey,
thanks for having me on. If you want me to plug it, Fanatical Elfz Network. Thank you for having me on. I'm on Burning River Browns Talk on Friday nights, Stirring the Pot on Monday nights. I do a Sunday show. It's on Rumble for a reason because we'd be banned everywhere else. It's called the Sunday Stew Pot with Corey Castle. Yeah, we say what we want. It's pretty cool. so check it out. You might see the reels on that. It's Sunday Stew Pot. And I also have the StewKast, the pro wrestling podcast on the Fans First Sports Network. So Wayne, I keep myself busy, man. And I appreciate it. No, I appreciate it, guys. Best of luck to you guys for the rest of the year. We will see each other. And like I said, I think what's going to come down with the division of the AFC North is who stays the healthiest. Yeah. That's really what I was saying. And, and we're not right now. So that's our main problem is more than anything else. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Hey, man.
Hey, thank you, Lou. Guys, go follow him. Twitter, Fanatical Elfz Network, his wrestling podcast as well.
At Lou Marconi 1973 on Twitter. Yep, and my wrestling stuff. Thanks, guys. Pleasure.
Boom. Appreciate you, Lou. He's the host of StewKast Pro Wrestling Podcast, and excited to hear his review on that Vince McMahon documentary too.
Yeah, we're gonna be reviewing the Mr. McMahon.
Let's go.
I'm sure it's gonna be interesting. Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be interesting.
Well, Lou, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I really do. Thanks, guys. I really do appreciate it.
Awesome. And Wayne, we'll have you answer some of these fantasy football questions as well, because we're having those pour in right now. If you guys haven't seen him, he does Sideline Savants back-to-back weeks, the #1 show weekly for Boom Broadcasting. So you're doing pretty good. We mentioned Jonathan Mateo, his trade Pacheco for Tank Dell. He needed a receiver. Highly doubted Pacheco is going to play the rest of the season. So I really wanted to ask you, because there's 3 different receivers for Houston right now. You got Tank Dell, you got Nico Collins, you got Stephon Diggs. Do you think Tank Dell is worth that trade?
I do. I mean, there's a lot of weapons that Stroud's moving that around, but we're seeing Dalton Schultz is not part of that offense that much. I think he's going to continue to fall off. I do think Dell, I mean, especially for a guy like Pacheco, who's not going to be playing for 6 to 8 weeks. So yeah, why not?
Why not? Why not?
Why not?
Why not? With Wayne Thomas from Sideline Savants, he's like, why not? Go for it. As long as it wasn't Dynasty.
If it's not Dynasty, yeah. If it's Dynasty, grit your teeth, figure it out. But I would definitely keep Pacheco. He's one of my favorite runners, and the Chiefs seem to really enjoy him. But if it's a standard league, you're not going to see him play again possibly for a long time. So might as well trade him away.
Man, that's tough to hear. Jason saying get points versus injuries. Also, he said awesome, hard to mess with a Browns fan that can pile drive. Lou Marconi's no joke. He got to talk a little bit about some of his wrestling stories briefly while he was on. Appreciate Lou. Part of Fanatical Elfz Network, part of Fans First Sports Network. He has his own wrestling podcast, StewKast Pro Wrestling Pod. And in addition, he's just awesome, dude. Like, former pro wrestler, worked for the NWA, worked for WWF, as he mentioned. Hopefully that's not the last time he will be on. Now, I promised T-Money, we would ask you this question, Wayne. He said a 10-man PPR. He's got Burrow, Jacobs, Connor, CD, Chase, Kincaid, DK, J-Mo, Ford, Mooney, Watson, Worthy, and Jonathan Brooks is on IR. And he asked us if he should trade Connor and J-Mo for JT. Now, I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, T-Money, I'm assuming JT is Jonathan Taylor. I like that deal.
Yeah, who's J-Mo again? Remind me.
Yeah, who is J-Mo? I'm trying to look it up. See,
yeah, I was Googling it. I don't know. Is that Jameson Williams?
That it might be Jameson Williams. That would make the most sense to me.
Yeah.
Because he also listed it right next to DK, who's a receiver.
Yeah,
I'm assuming.
I would absolutely make that trade. We don't know how long Connor's going to stay healthy. Might as well go ahead and trade him away. JT obviously has his health concerns, but he's that guy that you want at the Colts right now at the goal line. They certainly have the quarterback to take him there. So, yeah, I'd go ahead and make that trade.
And Jason says do that deal as well. And I heard, Wayne, that you're going to have Jason on again tomorrow for Sideline Savants.
Absolutely. Jason's most likely going to be a weekly guest. He's too good not to have on there. I appreciate his help, and yeah, it's gonna be a great show.
That's awesome. We get more Jason. Hopefully he comes on this week on Friday, and he hopefully can defend his picks back-to-back weeks. And hopefully Jason gets to show up on Friday after the Giants lose to the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday Night Football, and he doesn't duck me on Outta Pocket. So I say that now and watch Dallas crap the bed against the New York Giants. That would be absolutely terrible. Just like some of these players that players draft early on, they just are disappointments. And I'm not talking about the ones who are injured. Obviously, people disappointed about Christian McCaffrey, people disappointed about Isaiah Pacheco, but you can never predict injuries. But if you're not producing, like that's my most frustrating part when it comes to fantasy football.
Yeah, I agree 100%. you look at the positions right now that's struggling the most, and I mean the tight end position right now is in shambles. And you got two guys in the tight end position with Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce, who people drafted in the first and second round, and they're not doing anything for him right now.
Dude, absolutely not doing. So what would you say is your biggest disappointment in terms of like the entire landscape of the NFL?
I have to go Travis Kelce. Like I said, he was most likely a first round draft pick for many people, or early second. I love Travis Kelce, and this is not a hit on the greatest musical artist in the world right now, Taylor Swift. I'm a Swiftie. There would be no Taylor Swift slander when I'm on. But I will say this, Travis Kelce is not in football shape right now. He spent the entire offseason having a good time, and God bless him. I certainly would too. And maybe Travis Kelce might get into football shape as the season progresses. But as of right now, Travis Kelce is not doing what we thought he was going to do, and he's damn near unplayable in fantasy football right now.
Which sucks, because honestly, like I have him in our redraft league. On our ESPN app, we're doing Outta Pocket Fantasy Football. A little bit of moolah's on the line, and I'm really upset because I'm 0-3. And honestly, Travis Kelce should be that like can't miss player. This is a good point, by the way. Do you think it's because of Worthy's impact on the offense, or even Rashee Rice?
Possibly Rashee Rice, but as I predicted after week 1, Xavier Worthy is a big play dependent wide receiver. He has not seen the numbers that he's seen since week 1. He keeps getting 1 to 2 catches a game. If he doesn't break off a big touchdown, it is Rice's team as far as receiving goes. So I don't see any excuse for Kelce to not be as involved as he should be.
And Jason saying Kelce doing too many commercials. Add Kincaid and Laporta and then makes a disappointment. Is that fair?
I think that's very fair. Kincaid finally came alive last night. Maybe that's going to be a trend to go forward. Michael, I know you're aware that Kincaid came alive last night. I'm sorry to bring that to everybody's attention that I did beat the Prez last night thanks to Kincaid. However, we'll but
this
yes,
was
absolutely.
Mistake. This was a mistake.
Listen, like I said, the tight end position is an absolute shambles right now. You got to find those points in the waiver wire because the guys that we thought were going to carry the position are not there.
This was a complete mistake, by the way, to let you in and be like, hey, you want to come talk fantasy football? Yes, he did beat me. Not happy about it at all whatsoever. And you know what? I'm thinking about, giving some, legal action, receiving some legal advice to, give Wayne a run for his money. Be like, hey, this was absolutely not fair at all whatsoever. Blame that busted $5 fade Kelce has now. Shannon, you can't go at a man like that. Not everybody can look like podcast_Smitty. Wow.
I wish that we could just shake it off, but I feel there's a lot of bad blood there.
You know what? That's not the worst. That's not the worst. I see what you did there. I appreciate the effort that went into that. It's been interesting. Hey, Mr. Davis, that's the first time I've gotten hit with that one. What's up? How you doing? Appreciate you joining us. Maybe it's your first time watching Outta Pocket or Boom Broadcasting. Appreciate a subscribe. Appreciate you sharing the link with a friend if you're enjoying what we're talking about. A lot of different content on Boom Broadcasting nowadays. Jason saying, don't worry, the commish guy's whooping this weekend. Did you get whooped in one of your leagues?
Well, you're going to have to tune in to Sideline Savants to see what happened. But let's just say New York has a little victory lap coming his way.
Oh, my goodness. I love this. Let's just take a moment. I appreciate that. I was able to have the opportunity to go to the early college here locally and got to be a judge for a podcast competition. And I shared my experience on the Man Behind the Mic. I just want to say you guys have a fantastic teacher. You guys blew me away with those projects. I know I talked about that on one of my Man Behind the Mic episodes that dropped this past Saturday. But I was really impressed. So this isn't going to be the quality that you guys brought. Usually I do these live streams and we just talk wrestling, sports, football. Podcast me saying that's the best film in the world. There, I mean that caught me by surprise today. Not gonna lie, that caught me by surprise. It was a pleasant surprise right there. I appreciate you. Thank you. That Wayne, that got me off track, but that's awesome. I absolutely love that. That's the best comment I've received yet today. So thank you. That means a lot. When it comes to the most surprising fantasy football player in terms of like someone who I'm getting the Mr. Davis comments. Oh, that's my dad. I appreciate it. Oh wow, this is awesome. This is one of my favorite Outta Pocket episodes. Now we had Lou Marconi on a few minutes ago. We have Wayne on right now. We have some students in who did great on their podcast competition. This is great. Wayne, what would you say is your most surprising in a good way fantasy football player?
Right now, I got to give credit to Malik Neighbors. This guy has scored 67 fantasy points in just 3 weeks. That's over 20 points a game. When he was drafted by the New York Giants and when it came to fantasy football, all you heard was, yes, obviously this guy is talented, but it's just Daniel Jones that is going to throw him the ball. You heard this over and over again. It made perfect sense to me. This guy's on a team that have to play from behind. He's the most talented guy on the team. He's going to get the ball, and he continues to look like a first-round draft pick next year.
Man, that's high praise right there. I mean, and Jason saying New York Football Giant, like Malik Neighbors, doing this with Daniel Jones. It's a lot better than any other receivers done with Daniel Jones. I wanted to share, and I promise you guys an update on our Outta Pocket Fantasy Football League throughout the season. And I will be that guy, and I will say, yeah, I lost this past week, and I'll show you what happened. I'll show you what happened on the screen. You see how he beat me by like 5.5 points right there? Absolutely ridiculous. First and foremost, he's 3-0 in the league. I'm 0-3. He had Lamar, easy dub. DeAndre Swift performed well. Deontay Foreman actually was a dud. He was a dud. Oh, half a point. But he really relied on Dalton Kincaid late, Chris Godwin. And I did not get any help from Washington's defense. That's all me. Jamison Williams crapped the bed. Alec Pierce was doing great through the first couple of weeks and then had a dud. Josh Jacobs had a dud. Derrick Henry didn't help me at all. Forgot I even had him in there because of the Cowboys game. And then Derek Carr against the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, what happened, man? Like, that was shocking.
Yeah.
Dude, I had Brock Purdy on the bench. I'm so upset. You set Kyle Pitts, though. What made you sit Kyle Pitts for Dalton Kincaid?
Kyle Pitts screwed me last week, and I vowed to disown Kyle Pitts. He is available to trade. Whoever would like to have Kyle Pitts, hit me up. I'm looking for a running back.
Well, I could trade you Zeke for Kyle Pitts, and then we can both be disappointed.
I'm looking for any other running back.
He said any other running back. Jason saying it's because it's Kyle Pitts. I'll update you guys on the rest of the fantasy football league as well. We got week 4 matchups, but our week 3, obviously, I lost to the Learning Tree, which is Wayne. Joseph Camperman Joseph Camperman actually beating Jackson in a very high scoring matchup. Malik Neighbors, Rasheed Rice, Jonathan Taylor, Cole Kmet, like, dude, those two teams are scary right now.
Yeah. I will say, even though I'm 3-0, there's trouble in paradise because my running backs are god awful. And I am not going to continue to win games if I don't figure out the running back position for it. So, for the rest of the league to watch me go downhill because of my running backs, I mean, I certainly don't blame you if you don't trade me. But again, Kyle Pitts is available.
I mean, maybe you can convince Sean to depart with Saquon Barkley or Devin Singletary, who had 2 good games. He was like, "Nah, I'm good."
Hey, I would love Devin Singletary because he's going to go against your terrible run defense this week. So start Devin Singletary for sure.
It's really bad in Dallas, but Devin Singletary is also not Derrick Henry, so I'll also say that much. Now, the San Fran fan, Ben Camperman from the Camper Report, actually started Jennings because Debo was out, Christian McCaffrey out. Do you think he hits 46.5 points consistently?
Who's that again? I'm sorry.
Jawan Jennings, literally the 3rd string.
Oh, no. I mean, he's going to be relevant as long as Samuel's out. But obviously he's not going to hang on to that much of an amazing game, but I think he's worth a flex play until Samuel comes back for sure.
And he has New England and Arizona these next couple of weeks. So Aaron actually, beat Ben this past week despite Jen's big game. Sean mouthing off with Mike, even though Dallas Goedert had a big game. So did Chris Olave as well. Carson beating Esteban, big games behind Jamar Chase and Khalil Shakir. And then Glitches Get Stitches. I believe that is our podcast _Smitty, beating John, even though John said I offered him an awful trade earlier. And that is just out of pocket, John. It was not a bad trade, by the way. It was not a bad trade. I was flipping quarterbacks and flipping a running back for receiver, and he's like, "That's awful. I'm not accepting that." Also, Wayne, people don't like trading in fantasy football, and I don't like it how some people are so stubborn.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's all part of the fun. I might not trade all the time, but I love getting trade offers. I like seeing I love talking about fantasy football. I love seeing what is on the board. Send me offers, whoever. I love watching them.
Let's send offers for Kyle Pitts, apparently. But you can receive more fantasy football advice from Wayne, and Jason's going to be on tomorrow. Sideline Savants, fantasy football, dropping at noon tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoyed Wayne today. Wayne, any parting words before you leave?
No, like I said, Sideline Savants, 12 o'clock tomorrow. We're going to do a couple new things. I'll be on the hot seat for some questions. Jason's going to take over for that, and it should be fun.
Hot seat, I'm ready. Let's go. I'm absolutely ready for that. That's going to be exciting. Wayne, appreciate you, my friend. Sideline Savants tomorrow at 12. And also wanted to share some stuff that we are doing throughout the day. Obviously, Outta Pocket concludes your Tuesday. We had Dad and the Boys drop earlier today where I said, yeah, the Ravens beat the Cowboys. Me and my dad, Mac, talked about, why that happened, why Derrick Henry is not a Dallas Cowboy, who is to fault for not only that, but also the loss this past weekend. Tomorrow, a huge, large slate for Boom Broadcast, and you have quick hits with Podcast Smitty at 9 a.m. You have Sideline Savants, a fantasy football podcast at 12 p.m. with Wayne. You have the Drop the Mic Wrestling podcast, myself, Michael Davis. You have Lombardi Party at 6 p.m., hosted by Carson Williams. You have the AEW Nightcap immediately following Dynamite, a huge show tomorrow, including a world title opportunity. Bryan Danielson, Nigel McGuinness, Ricochet, Will Ospreay, I believe is that one. Maybe it's in a few weeks. Don't quote me on that. Actually, it's Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher in a tag team match tomorrow. That's right. And then Thursday, before we come back, it'll be It Stinks at 10 a.m. Sean taking over that 10 a.m. slot. You got Dugout Debrief, another one of our new shows, Baseball Podcast by Chris DeLuca, the Duke, at noon. You have Dad and the Boys, a special episode previewing Thursday night's Cowboys-Giants game. And, of course, you have Outta Pocket. That'll be back Thursday at the same time, 5:30, 6:30 live. We'll be previewing that Cowboys-Giants matchup. We'll be talking about some more sports news over the next couple of days. Guys, thank you so much. For anyone new watching, I appreciate you tuning in and just spending time with us. You know, you never get time back, and I'm glad you invested that in supporting us, supporting the team. You can continue to do that by hitting that subscribe button. That just helps us bring more content to you guys and show support for myself and the others. But for Michael Davis, this has been Outta Pocket, and we will see you guys back here on Thursday.
Well, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed it. We had a ball making it. Thank you very much.